operation. Planes are always flying.
Right.
So I didn't date much, and I didn't go out to the clubs a lot. So anyway, I found her, and she was working a lot too. But anyway, I had like a nerdy, to circle back to what I was going to say, I had like a nerdy list of things that were important to me at the time.
Right.
And I was like 25 or so. And she needed to be health conscious, and she couldn't be, obviously not a social idiot, but she needed to be financially responsible.
I don't think I've ever heard of that before.
Even back then, I wanted her to be smart, but not like nerdy, like.
Right.
But,
street smart and book smart.
Yeah, just a good combination, like the perfect person, right? Easy to find, right? So anyway, needed to be financially responsible. And that was a big thing and she was. And we talked about it on that first date, just some basics.
Right.
Because I knew that if you really get involved with somebody and you fall in love with them, but then financially they're on opposite ends, it's not that it's not going to work. It's just a real strain on the rest of your life. So
do you think
important.
People understand basics with financing, at least with personal financing, when they're coming out of schooling? Or do you think there should still be more, like you should still learn about it more and get a little bit more in depth than just what you learn in school?
I think you need to, I think you don't know enough when you come out of school, not necessarily because you don't learn enough of the technical aspects of it in school. I do believe you do not learn enough in school. It's gotten better, but you still don't learn enough. Aside from that, I don't think you know enough because you just haven't lived enough. I think that when you live is when you really learn. And so when you get out of school, you need to continue to practice the good habits, and you need to learn to live below your means. And you have to, with all your might, you have to battle the tendency to live like you lived when you were growing up. So the example that you see from your parents, it really weighs heavily on who you become, especially as a young adult. So you have to battle that. We tend to parent like we were parented. We tend to spend money like we saw as an example. It's just a part of who you grow up as, and the young adult that you become. So you have to really battle that. And some of us are luckier than others and have a better example. But you really need to be careful. And you're probably not going to be a rock star in your 20s, and that's okay. But if you're always kind of thinking about it and getting better, and then maybe when you get into your late 20s, you get into your 30s, then you can kind of get yourself on the right track. And I think that as long as you avoid like the real bad mistakes,
I mean, when I was
you'll be all right.
Living by myself before like COVID and stuff, I realized like there is a lot, even with rent, electricity, groceries, like that is a lot of your paycheck. That's or even both paychecks sometimes, where it's just like this is how you're just surviving, not luxuries, but your survival. And from, like I said, being by myself, it made me realize, like, holy crap, I got to really budget. And if I want to go and do something, I would say I got a little bit of obsessive about finances because I got very worried that I wouldn't be able to afford living by myself and being able to still go and do stuff with people, or even if I wanted something. And it scared the shit out of me because it was just like, this is really scary, and I don't want to be homeless. I don't want to lose my car. I don't want to do this and that. But with COVID happening and going back home, it still made me realize, like, just because I'm at home doesn't mean I can't put extra money into savings. I can't start putting stuff into investing. And then having our conversations about that Roth IRA, it's been a huge game changer with where's your money going? Where's your excess going that you're not going to use? Are you just saving it, or are you going to put it into that, investing? And I feel that a lot of kids my age, they just don't realize, like, whatever you're doing now, like you said, with your age, how you're different now, it's going to be different when I'm at that age.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, so there's a lot I could say about what you just said. It was really loaded.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's really good stuff. The thing about being young, and I mean, kudos to you, because you realize that, and a lot of people, they don't realize it, or if they do realize it, they don't realize it enough to really take action and do the right thing. So you realize, my paychecks allow me to do this, or I have this many bills, but I want to live my life this way.
Right. And
so what they do is they take on credit card debt, because the credit card companies are really good about giving you credit cards. And so you accumulate this debt, and it happens slowly, and before you know it, you're under such weight, and you have to spend so much of your life repaying that. And you make, the minimum payments, and that's all I really need to make. And then you don't, it's easy to not realize the heavy toll, the weight of all that interest and how that's building, and how now you have this like serious debt. I mean, people get out of school and they have school debt, which is normal, and then you buy a house, you have house debt. And so having credit card debt on top of that, and maybe a car and all these things, they really compound and they can really cripple you.
Right.
So it's really important to not get so far, behind early in life with credit card debt. And I was a victim to that on a small scale. Now, at the time, it was big, but I remember I had a Discover card, and because I was in college, and you can just get one real easily.
Right.
They kind of target you that way.
Like a student card or something like that.
I think it had $2,600 was the limit, and I quickly got to the limit.
Yeah. Oh crap.
But before I got to the limit, they also have an amount that you can go to an ATM and you can take out cash. So
from that credit card.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the cash back. Is that what that's called?
No, it was just you had like let's say you had a $2,600 limit for credit purchases. You also had like an ATM limit, so you could take out up to $500 out of an ATM. The problem is that anytime you take out money from an ATM, the interest on that is really, really big.
See, I didn't even know there was interest on taking money out of an ATM.
Good. Don't, with a credit card, don't ever do that.
Okay.
So
note taken.
The interest rate is ridiculous, and so I was under like pretty heavy debt, and it wasn't until I got to the Air Force that was a really nice thing for me, because then you're taken care of in a lot of ways. They feed you, you have a place to live and all this.
Right.
You're serving your country and you're doing those things, but in a way they take care of you. And so then I was able to kind of get all that stuff under control. I didn't have a whole lot of opportunity to spend my money, so I really started to just pay all that stuff back. But it was really good that you noticed that. I kind of did my own thing about getting out of debt in my own way. But then once I started investing, it was really cool to do so. And I did it in a way that was really simple for me. And so while a lot of people may not understand kind of how to do it, I always recommend just getting into a broad spectrum mutual fund. So, for example, I invest in something that's called an ETF, so exchange traded funds.
I read about it and so obviously learned about it at school.
They just track the one I have tracks the S&P 500.
Yep.
And I get it through Schwab. And so these are the big companies, right? Walmart and Costco and Microsoft and Apple, companies like that. So if that mutual fund starts tanking, the whole world is tanking. And so it really doesn't matter at that point. It's the way I feel about it.
Yeah.
So that's what I've just been investing in. And it's with a Roth IRA. It's a simple thing. You just need to have earned income in order to open one up. You can call any investment company. I use Schwab, a Janus. There are many out there.
Do you think people know truly what a Roth IRA is and how beneficial it is to have one?
Well, it's the best thing since sliced bread, because what happens is you can invest. I think the most that you can invest now is $6,000 a year.
Yes. Yep.
$6,000 a year is what you can do. So what happens is the money that you invest, it's post-tax money. It's going to be your dollars that you get after their tax. So it's your paycheck. So you put that in. So your contributions are never taxed because they were already taxed. And then the earnings, whatever that earns, is also not taxed. Now, normally in an IRA, the earnings are tax deferred. In a regular traditional IRA, the earnings that you make, you don't pay taxes on them now, but when you withdraw it, then later on in life, when you're retired and you withdraw, then you do have to pay taxes on that, which is still pretty good because your tax rate when you're older is going to be lower because you're going to be a senior citizen at that point.
And retired, hopefully, at that point.
Yes, right. With a Roth, the contributions, like I said, are already taxed, and the earnings are not taxed. So the whole thing is tax-free. So it's amazing, really. Now, there is a caveat. Like once you start to earn a certain amount of annual salary, you can't contribute to it anymore. The government starts to phase it out, and then after a certain amount, then you can't contribute to it at all. But then you can always switch to a traditional IRA as well.
And you could start that fresh and still keep that money from the Roth. You don't have to switch the Roth to that IRA. No,
the Roth stays where it is. It's just that you can no longer contribute to a Roth once you earn a certain amount of money. And by the time you get there, you can always switch. You can have a traditional and a Roth IRA right now. There is no limit. There's no requirement to have an IRA other than you have to have earned income.
See, and I think a lot of people just don't realize how beneficial that's going to be when you're ready to retire and
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. I mean, consider this, like the Roth. I'm I'm not bragging. I'm not, and I don't think this isn't, spectacular. There are people that are much better off than I am. But with a Roth IRA, the most you can contribute is $6,000 a year. And before that, years ago, it was less. I remember when it was $5,000. I remember when it was $2,000 or $3,000.
Really?
Yeah. It was a lot less when it first got going, or when I first started getting into it.
Yeah.
So, you do the math, and it's just not. It's not that you can't contribute that much. What I've also done, and I did this once, was once I switched jobs, I took my 401k and I put that into the Roth. It was a rollover, and so what happened then is, I don't want to get too technical, but I had to pay the taxes on that.
Right.
The 401k is tax deferred, so if you put it now into the Roth, you had to pay all the taxes on that then. So I did that as well. But anyway, that was not a huge amount of dollars. But my Roth now is $500,000, and it's a lot. It's a lot, I think, for being 44.
You can buy a house.
You can.
I advise you don't, right?
You could buy a couple. Depends on what houses you're looking at. You could talk to Tats.
Oh gosh,
he'll get you several for that.
I'm sure. I'm trying to get him on the show. I'm trying.
Oh yeah, he'd be great.
He won't do it yet.
He'd be great.
You need to be popular for me to come on this show.
I'll talk to him. I'll get him on. But and probably the best thing about that, like I said, circling back to your spouse, if you have somebody that's also like on the same page, right? That's like half of the pot, right? That's mine, and then she also has one as well. So then when you think about, combine what you and your spouse could be when you're like 40, which, trust me, is not old. I feel great. I can't believe I'm the age I am. It goes by pretty quick, but, you can be all right. So money really, it kind of, it works for you. You just have to get in there and be consistent. And I'm not a super sophisticated guy. I really am not. I'm not at all. In fact, I had a whole life policy one time that somebody told me I should get, and I never really truly understood it, and then I got out of that. And I've just stuck to really simple stuff. That's all I've done.
Do you think, since things can be very dramatic and with advertising and marketing, that is how people that don't really know what they're potentially getting into, that's how they get into these situations where it's like it's not an asset for you, it's becoming a liability. You're financially now unstable because of how the marketing was designed. Yeah,
I think there's a lot to that. I think that goes back to just not understanding things, people getting hooked into things that they don't really understand, and then they have debt, or they're carrying the weight of something that they can't get out of. It's really important to note that with retirement vehicles, once you put the money in, you can't really get it out until you retire. You technically can. However, you pay a 10% penalty. It's a stiff penalty. Oh,
so it's not even worth it at that point.
No. Oh. So whatever you put in, you need to make sure that you can part ways with it.
Right.
It's kind of like gambling. Like there's a responsible way to do it, and it's a good thing to mention now because gambling is legal in the state.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
I have actually never been to a casino, even though I'm over 21. Never been to a casino.
So, they make it easy. You don't have to go to a casino. You can get FanDuel, DraftKings, any one of these apps.
Do you have those?
PointsBet, as a matter of fact, I do.
Oh, you betting what, $2? I
like betting 20 or so when I bet, but I bet carefully. But like anything else, whether you're talking about, not anything else, but whether you're talking about betting or putting up money away, you have to make sure that you can part ways with it. So I only bet money that I can definitely lose. And I don't normally feel that way about a lot, so I don't bet that much.
No, that's good. That's totally really good.
But with the IRA, you have to understand. You put it away. You can't. You have to just leave it. Forget about it. I wouldn't even look at how it's doing, except for once in a while. But it's not money that you should be moving around a whole lot. And if you do that, you'll be fine. But stay away from schemes and fads and things like that. And I don't mean to suggest that I've thought about Bitcoin now. I don't mean to suggest that these cryptocurrencies are a fad. They may not be. They've been around now for longer than fads are usually, so they may turn out to be something, but they're really highly speculative. So if you're going to get into them, get into it with quote unquote play money that you can expect to lose and see and have fun with it. Don't ever get into something where you're sweating, you're losing sleep, you're really nervous. If this doesn't go go well for you. You're going to be in trouble. Don't ever do any of that.
Do you think that kind of tends to happen a lot with younger people? Like they